it's important. So today talking about the Middle Passage. Now, when we last left off, we talked about the triangle trade and how finished products are created in England, or Europe really, most of England though. They are then traded to take West Africans, and then they are brought to the Americas, where they will be sold again. The Middle Passage is horrible. It's the most famous and worst part of this journey because Africans are chained to each other and chained to below the deck. And this journey could take 8 weeks. Think about that. That's 2 months. Now, every now and then you would be allowed to get up, but think about for the majority of 2 months being forced to be lying down. Think about for the majority of 2 whole months being chained to people that you're so close you're touching. Think about for the majority of 2 months. It's not like you're unchained and able to go so that you can go to potty. It's not like you're able to go and have alone time. It's not like you're able to go bathe. So for 2 months, you are chained where you're going potty right where you are. Remember, you're chained right next to somebody. So when they go potty, you know it. Think about how bad that would smell. 2 months of that. How horrible. So people are probably going to get sick, which you're going to know because you're right there too. Now, there are 2 ways people would be packed into the slave ships. They have the tight pack and the loose pack. This is the tight pack. It's horrifying. Each of these are people. All right. Now remember, the slavers, they tried to say people weren't people, but we know people are people. And this is just kind of showing from different angles and how it would be. So you are touching side by side with all of these people. You know, your head to their heads practically. And for rows and rows of this is how people were. And you'd be spending 2 months this way, guys. We can never forget how horrible and bad this was. And people will try to forget. They'll try to put this out of their mind. But this is a huge, terrible thing. It's one of the worst things humans have done in history. Here's the loose pack that we're going to have. So what happened is with the tight pack, too many slaves died. And they weren't sad because it was people dying. They were upset because they lost profit. Because remember, they're treating people as objects and they are trying to make money off of them and their misery. So they switched to the loose pack so more people would survive the voyage across the Atlantic Ocean. And this is the loose pack. It looks so much better, doesn't it? It still looks bad if you couldn't tell. It's not good. So, yeah, that's the loose pack compared to the tight pack. It's crazy. But only about 20% of the slaves died on the way this time. That's 1 out of 5 still died on the way because it was so terrible. Can you imagine? I wouldn't want those odds. So let's talk about what it's like in there. Now, one of the things is it's not going to be ventilated very well. There's not going to be really much airflow. I don't know if you've ever guys have been, you ever like get into the car on like a sunny day when the windows weren't down and it's just like, it just feels oppressive when you get in the car like that, when the car's been sealed up, hasn't been open in a while, you go in and it feels terrible. That's what it's like to much better. So it's super hot. There's like no airflow going in and just like the air is stale and gross. Add on to the fact that because you're on the ocean, it's going to be incredibly humid. Now, we all have gotten to enjoy the Maryland summer, where it's like some days you're like walking through a bowl of soup, it feels like, because there's just so much moisture in the air, which makes the heat so much worse, which makes you feel just gross. Well, it's going to be so much more humid when you're on the sea because, like, guess what? There's water all around you. And then on top of that, because it already sounds miserable, you have everybody's pee pee and poo poo. Feces and urine is everywhere because you're chained there. Your neighbors are chained there and they can't get up to relieve themselves. There's probably going to be barf everywhere. There are people crying. It's not good. And for almost all day, that's how you're chained. Horribleness. So, death was something that was incredibly common. As I mentioned, 20% of the people would not survive the voyage. 20% of people would not survive the voyage. Now, typically, what would happen is you die of disease. Because one of the things people figured out pretty quickly is that urine and feces are dirty. Our body gets rid of them for a reason. And if you hang out around them, you get sick. Well, they're hanging out around them. They get sick. You know, we talk about social distancing now because of, unfortunately, with the coronavirus. Well, it's the same idea. If someone has a cold or, heaven forbid, the flu or something else, and you are chained there and you're all right next to each other, instead of being 6 feet apart, you're like 0 inches apart. When someone coughs, you're going to get those germs. So sicknesses spread like wildfire. Sicknesses spread like wildfire through the slave trip. Sometimes people would go and mutiny. Mutiny means they would try to fight against the the ship's crew. And so this happened. There's actually a fantastic story of a slave ship that will successfully mutiny, but it wasn't something that was super common. And when it did, though, those people would be killed. And another sad thing, and you're going to read about it a little bit in the story, is sometimes people would commit suicide when they would go and have the ability to go out on the deck. They would jump. They would just jump because they would say, I would rather be dead than live through this. And that happened a lot. And they say that sharks would follow the slave ships because sharks have really good noses, and they could smell how a slave ship smelled, because it had a distinct smell. And schools of sharks would literally follow the ships because they knew either bodies of people who died would be thrown overboard. Sometimes bodies of people that were still living but they were sick would be thrown overboard. And also they knew, the sharks, that people would jump overboard. So it's one of these terrible things where this was a regular occurrence. Now, there was a very special case about called the Amistad, which we had a successful mutiny, and they try to go and sail to the Americas. And so we're going to a quick video on that, I'm going to change our audiovisual settings because I know Savona wants the highest quality possible. Yes, Miss Patel.
So because all the slaves got sick, would the people who are not slaves